Our next guest is Congresswoman Linda Sanchez of California. She's a member and former chair of the Congressional Hispanic Caucus, and she's currently the lead House sponsor of the U.S. Citizenship Act. Congresswoman Sanchez, it's so great to be with you. I've been sitting here with my awesome colleague here, Julieka, as we've been moderating this, and occasionally looking at my email. I just got invited to a background call that I'm not supposed to talk about the Biden-Harris plan on immigration and citizenship. And so I'm guessing you may know what they're about to roll out. So what are the smoke signals that are out there that we can pay attention to? What do you know about what the administration may be rolling out?
I have been invited to a meeting at the White House tomorrow, and I suspect that I'll have a better answer for you after that meeting. Right now, we are just pushing as hard as we can to educate folks about the reconciliation process and the potential to get some immigration relief rolled into that bill. That relief is, been a long overdue, and it's something that I've spent the last 19 years in Congress working towards. So we see this as a potential opportunity to really provide the relief that should have been done long ago.
Well, I've been watching this for the 19 years that you've been working on it, and I'm sure that many folks are frustrated with the fact that trying to figure out a way to create an economy and a citizenry that is diverse and inclusive shouldn't be as heavy a lift as it has been. Are you feeling that we're in an inflection point, even given our toxic politics, that this may finally be an agenda that we can check off?
Well, given how terribly immigrants were treated under the last administration and how the world watched as the Trump administration separated parents and children, treated them basically like animals, I think that there is a turning point. I think the fact that many essential workers who got us through COVID were immigrant workers. And I think the American public, which has always supported immigration reform, even more now sees the case for why it's good for this country to see comprehensive immigration reform pass. I mean, if we could pass an immigration legalization bill that gave a path to citizenship, we would add trillions to our economic growth, which would turbocharge us to get out of the economic doldrums that we've experienced. It would reduce our deficit, and it certainly would allow a working class that has been contributing to our economy, some for decades, finally allow them to come out of the shadows and be fully participating in U.S. citizenry. And I think that, COVID has really highlighted the need for immigrant labor in this country, and I think the American public has the appetite for it.
Representative Sanchez, I had a really great talk. I love her. I know she's a friend of yours with Isabella Casillas Guzman, who's the administrator of the SBA. Was in California before, so you know that arena real well. And it's just so cool to talk to her to understand that when you kind of look at entrepreneurship in America, guess who's taking the risks? Guess who's behind a lot of these new ventures and enterprises and entrepreneurs? Not only Hispanics, but Latinas are driving a lot of this and creating these businesses. So it's really enlightening to hear that. And I just, want to ask you point blank from your own experience. And part of why we're doing this today is to hear parts of your experience that others might be able to replicate as they're dealing with challenges. But, when I was talking to Administrator Guzman, I was sort of saying, tell us about, some of the experiences of these entrepreneurs and, whether it's discrimination, whether it's normal speed bumps, because, people don't expect Latina leaders to be entrepreneurs. I don't know what kind of bigotry is built up out there, but I'm just sort of interested as a storyteller who some of the villains are who have to be squelched so that we can see more people like yourself succeed.
Sure. Well, I will say that, when I'm back in the district, I do regular tours of small businesses, and the fastest growing segment of entrepreneurs is Latina women. And oftentimes it's because they've worked in workforces where their opinions and their contributions haven't been valued or, quite frankly, compensated. So they say, screw this, I'm going to start my own business and I'm going to do it my way, and I can be successful because I have the work ethic. I mean, many immigrant women, for them, failure is not an option. They leave everything behind that is familiar to them, whether that's their family, their culture, their language, to come to a country where they don't know what they're going to expect, And so for them, they are super motivated to succeed, and they open businesses, and they not just survive, they actually thrive. I talked recently on my last visit back to California with a businesswoman. She and her husband were living in somebody's garage, and they said, we're working harder than ever. This has got to change. So they put together their meager savings. They opened up a juice bar and restaurant. They now own 3 and are about to open 3 more. They've been wildly successful. They employ people from the community. They contribute to our tax base. They've been super successful because they bring that determination and that drive to succeed. So it's not a secret. That story is multiplied hundreds of thousands of times within the Latino community. You see people really appreciate the opportunities that are afforded to them and really want to succeed and give their children a better life. And so, as an elected official, one of the things that I try to encourage women and Latino women in particular, we need your voices at the table. When we craft policy, if we are excluding people, we are not creating good policy for this country. We need a Congress that looks like the America that it's elected to represent. And so we need different perspectives and different voices at the table. A lot of Latino women, a lot of women in general, they're very hesitant to sort of enter the fray of politics. And you have to encourage them. You have to ask them, hey, have you ever thought about running for city council, or have you ever thought about running for the state legislature or even Congress? Before I was elected, I had never held elective office. So it's not impossible. There is a path if you have the drive and determination, but oftentimes they need the encouragement. They need a network of support to help them. And I tell other Latinas, if you don't want to go into public service or run for public office, support somebody who does. Whether that's, volunteering on their campaign, or whether that's calling them when they're down and giving them the lift that they need. Do your part to make sure that you have representation in the halls of Congress.
I really appreciate the candor of that, and I want to say, I've been following you. I've met a few times over the years, and I used to be in Los Angeles, and we saw this. But I look at the lineup of folks we had today. From Administrator Guzman, Michelle de la Isla from Topeka, Kansas, Nicole Maliotakis on the Republican side from New York, and a Greek-Cuban immigrant on this. So many other people. We just talked to Representative Escobar from Texas. And so when you listen, and I wanted to ask you this, because I know it's a tough question. I know it's a kind of meta question. But when you see these great leaders there, it makes me wonder, what if they weren't there? What is the gap between what we would be achieving if none of these women were in the positions they were doing now? So go back 10 years. With you, it would be 19 years. But I'm interested in what you feel the gap is. And I'm asking, what is the net value add to our citizenry, to our country, given the achievements of yourself and others that we have? What would we have lost if you weren't there?
Well, speaking from personal experience, I'm just going to give one example, which is specific to me, but you multiply that by the courageous and brave and outstanding Latina leaders that you see in the world today, and you can imagine how far back we would be without them. But when I was a member of the Ways and Means Committee in 2009, we marked up the Affordable Care Act. And in that bill, I inserted a provision. It was an idea for a bill that I had as a standalone that made it into the bigger bill, that said insurance companies would be prohibited from charging women more for their health care, for the same health care policy as men, strictly because they were women. That made it into the bill. That's the law of the land. Without that, women would still be charged more than men for the same health insurance just because we are women. Pregnancy would be considered a pre-existing condition. We would be so far back without just that one provision. Now, think about all the outstanding women. Think of Veronica Escobar and other leaders in Congress, Nydia Velázquez and Lucille Rogal. All their work over the years collectively has really brought women much more equity and parity with our male counterparts. Now, we're not there yet. We still have a long way to go. but we would be really much further back without their contributions.
Well, let me just say on behalf of the Hill, I'm going to make you an offer right now, and I can do this. If you want to do 800 words on that subject, because you just taught me something. I did not know about that discrepancy. I love these conversations because I get to learn a lot, but we'd love to help others learn a lot too. So you want to do 800 words, send it to the Hill on those discrepancies and reflect on what you got in the American Recovery Act. But what is the agenda still to be done? I'd be happy to publish it.
Oh, I love it. I will jump at that opportunity. Always take an opportunity to highlight work that needs to be done and accomplishments that we've achieved.
Well, Congresswoman Linda Sanchez of California, thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope you'll be back. And I look forward to those 800 words.
It's been my pleasure. Anytime.